Hi guys, and today we are at Sandwell Park Golf Club. Sandwell Park is one of the Midlands' most historic and highly regarded courses. Originally shaped by course designer Harry Colt, it's certainly a course with a great reputation locally, especially for its design and its condition. In this review we'll be scoring it based on the normal 5 factors of feel and facility, course layout, difficulty and condition, and then finally onto the value. Once we've gone through the review, we'll get into each of the 18 holes and just provide a little bit of strategy around each of the 18 holes. So on to the feel and facilities. I'm going to give this a score of 5 out of 5. On first impressions, Sandwell Park has that sort of traditional members club feel. The clubhouse overlooks the 18th green and the first hole, and there's plenty of character to the club. Really welcoming atmosphere, really friendly staff and very well presented throughout. The practice facilities are pretty good, you've got everything you'll need there to get warm for your round, and the overall impression of the club is a really good one. For the course layout, this Harry Colt design is all about strategy. Each of the holes really does have a different feel, so you are going to have to plot your way around this course. The front 9 play is a little bit shorter and tighter, but the back 9 really does open out and gives you that bit more of a variety. The flow is really quite natural. There's some quite really good challenging par 4s, and there's a couple of holes with some elevation changes and plenty of interest throughout the round. It's a course that will reward pretty good decisions as well as obviously making some good shots, but probably just missing a feature hole would be the only slight negative of the course. So I'm going to give this a score of 4 out of 5. For the course difficulty, Sandwell isn't exactly the longest course on paper, but please don't let that fool you. Some really tight driving areas, well placed bunkers and some really well protected greens means accuracy is of the most importance for this course. If you're slightly off your game, the course will certainly let you know about it, but if you are playing well, it will reward you, and there is a low score out there for some people. I'm going to give this a score of 5 out of 5 as well. For the course condition, I'm also going to give this a score of 5 out of 5. The course was in immaculate condition. The fairways were really well presented, the greens rolled super consistently, the bunkers were all in great condition. This doesn't feel like it's been overplayed at all, even though this was a round in the middle of June. It just really added to that experience that it didn't feel overplayed. Fairways were really well cut and really well defined throughout. Again, course that's in great condition. And finally onto the value. Is it worth spending your money here at Sandwell Park? We paid £40 for the round on a Saturday afternoon, and considering the course's reputation and the condition of the course, it is well worth paying £40. I'd be more than happy to pay more than that if we needed to. Considering all of the other courses in the region, this is a bargain and I would happily come back again for this round. So again, I'm going to give this a score of 5 out of 5 too. So this will give Sandwell Park Golf Club a score of 24 out of 25. If you are in the Birmingham Sandwell area, well worth a visit. If you've played Sandwell Park before, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions. If you have enjoyed this review, please don't forget to like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Lots of other courses, especially around the Midlands. Until then, I will speak to you next time. Hole 1, and a challenging par 4 to open up with. Off the tee though, you are playing to quite a tight fairway with both sides of the fairway being tree lined. You will want to try and get yourself down the fairway as far as possible, as this will only help you with your approach to the green. There's a red stakes drainage channel that cuts across the fairway, and that's roughly about 300 yards off the tee, so for most golfers, not likely going to cause much trouble. For your approach to the green, I would recommend playing for the heart of the green. There is one bunker that is short right and a tree that is front left. Your best miss will actually just to be short of the tree if anything. You won't want to go too far to the back of the green, as there is a bit of a runoff area towards the back which will leave a tough up and down. The green slopes generally down towards the front of the green, so if possible leave yourself an uphill putt. Hole 2, and another fairly long par 4, and actually plays quite similar to hole 1. This is a very heavily tree lined fairway, and there's actually just a bit of a gap in the trees that's about 210 yards off the tee, so if anything you'll just want to try and get past this point. Again, you will be at an advantage the further down the fairway you can get, so just pick the club that is going to get you comfortably over 210 yards and just help you to find that wider part of the rough. For your approach to the green though, I would just again play to the heart of the green, and you will be playing to a slightly raised green. This green is actually quite small, with bunkers protecting the front right and front left of this green. This green does slope slightly down towards the right hand side as you approach the green, so don't expect too much movement, but you may want to try and find yourself just to the right of that green if anything. Hole 3, and a slightly shorter par 4 this time. For most golfers, you are going to want to lay up short of the fairway bunker that cuts across the middle of the fairway. This is going to be quite a tight fairway to find, so best to try and keep your shot under 240 yards off the tee. For your approach to the green, I would just again play for the heart of the green, as there's one greenside bunker to the left, so if anything just favour that right hand side of the green. This is another green that slopes down towards the front of the green, so you can expect some movement if you're having to put across the green, and especially if you are nearer the front of the green, it does seem a bit more severe towards the front there. Hole 4, and a tough par 3 here. This is actually quite a long par 4, plus it plays slightly uphill towards the green. I would just recommend playing at least the yardage to the middle of the green, if not the back of the green. This will help you to avoid the bunkers that are sat at the front of the green, and there's 4 actually quite deep, tough bunkers. There is also another bunker that is down the left hand side of the green, so if anything just favour that back right corner. This will be a much better place to miss if you do happen to go a little bit longer, as there is a bit of space long. This is another green that runs down from back to front, and with the green being slightly flatter at the back if anything. You will notice that it does get a bit more steeper towards the front of the green. Hole 5, and a fairly short par 5 here, and the main aim off the tee will be just to try and get up to, if not past, the 2 fairway bunkers that you see in the distance. You are playing into a bit of a dip in the fairway, so try and get up to as close to those bunkers as possible. These will come at roughly 260 yards off the tee. If you're going for the green in 2, you will need to try and get past these. If you can't get past the 2 bunkers though, I would just recommend a simple layup for that second shot, and this will need to be somewhere around either 120 or 70 yards. There's 2 fairway bunkers that sit at 110 and 90 yards to the middle of the green, so either just leave yourself short or leave yourself after those. For your approach shot to the green, there is a drainage channel that cuts across the front of the green, and you will want to try and just play for the middle of the green. There is also a false front to this green, so you cannot afford to miss this green anything short, so play to the back of the green if you want to be extra safe. The green does slope quite significantly down towards the front of this green, and you can expect plenty of movement from most angles around this green, but where possible, try to leave yourself an uphill putt. Hole 6, and the second of back-to-back par 5s. This one does play slightly longer than the previous hole. However, the plan should just be to try and get to the green in regulation. This is actually quite a tight fairway and is heavily tree lined again. The best play here will just be to try and get your approach to be 120 yards from the middle of the green, so this will leave you 2 shots to play 380 yards. The fairway is at its widest at about 220 yards off the tee, so this may be a sensible shot for most golfers. For your second shot, again, you're just going to want to try and avoid the 2 bunkers that are protecting either side of the green, and this will need an accurate shot up towards the green, so just play the yardage to the middle of the green, and this will just allow for anything missed to come up short. The green generally slopes from back left to front right, so you can expect quite a bit of movement from most angles around this green. Hole 7, and a challenging par 3 here, and much more difficult I think than actually stroke index 18 would suggest. You actually have very little sight of the green from the tee box, and this is just due to the bushes down the right hand side of this hole. I would recommend just playing at least the yardage to the middle of the green, if not the back of the green. You will need to try and find that widest part of the green. You won't have sight of this actually, again, just due to the bunkers. But the green does slope quite significantly down towards the front of the green as you approach it. Ideally you would leave yourself at an uphill putt where possible, but you can expect quite a bit of movement if you are having to putt from around the green. Hole 8, and this is a relatively short par 4, however this is extremely narrow with trouble either side of the fairway. You have thick brushes and trees all the way down that left hand side and another drainage channel down the right hand side. So I would just recommend trying to find the widest part of the fairway, and this is roughly about 180 yards off the tee. Just to give yourself that bit more room for error, You will also want to try and aim down the left hand side of that fairway bunker that you see in the distance. It should leave you about 120 yards into the middle of the green. For your approach to the green, I would just play the yardage to at least the middle of the green. There's 4 bunkers that are protecting the front of this green, which you'll want to try and avoid where possible. The green has quite a few undulations, so you will need to read this green pretty carefully, so please expect plenty of movement from most angles around this green. Hole 9, and a medium length par 4 here, just to finish off the front 9 with. The hole does play its full yardage, as it does play slightly uphill from tee to green. I would recommend just playing the yardage of about 200 yards off the tee, as this will help you to find the widest part of the rough and the fairway, and anything past this point the rough and the fairway really do narrow in. For your approach to the green, I would just recommend playing the yardage to at least the middle of the green, as that allows for that slight elevation change. The green slopes from back to front, so you can expect quite a bit of movement if you are putting around the foot, especially around the front of this green. Hole 10, and a relatively short par 5 to open up the back 9 with. This is certainly reachable in 2, but this will require a good drive to get yourself down the fairway as far as possible. Off the tee though, your ideal position would be between the 2 fairway bunkers. You won't necessarily see these off the tee, but they come at roughly 200 and 280 yards off the tee. So playing somewhere between that yardage will leave you a really good opportunity for that hole. You will need to be mindful that the stick trees all the way down the left hand side and out of bounds all the way down the right. So best just to try and get yourself into play. If you're unsure of what club to take, just try and leave yourself about 120 to 150 yards from the middle of the green within 2 shots. For your approach to the green though, I would just recommend playing the yardage to at least the middle of the green. There's 2 bunkers protecting the front entrance of the green, and the green is actually quite small, but it does have a bit of room for error around it, especially towards that left hand side. So if anything, just take aim towards the left half of the green. The green itself slopes from the right hand side of the green, but don't expect too much movement unless you are having to put from distance on this hole. Hole 11, and a short par 4 here, but due to how narrow this hole is, accuracy is the most important thing off the tee. For most golfers, I would recommend just playing something in the region of 180 to 200 yards off the tee, and this will just help you miss the 2 fairway bunkers and leave you short of just where the trees start to narrow in on the fairway. I would take aim towards the left hand side of the tree that you see in the distance. For the longer hitters, I probably actually wouldn't recommend going for this green, as there is so much trouble around the green. There's 2 bunkers down the left hand side and trees and bushes all the way down the right, with very little room for error here. For your approach to the green, just play the yardage to the back of the green if you are playing for safety, as the green is slightly wider to the back. However, the green does slope generally down towards the front of this green, so where possible, leave yourself an uphill putt. Hole 12, and a good length par 3 that does play slightly downhill from a raised tee box. I would recommend playing the yardage to at least the middle of the green, as this should help you get you clear of the 2 bunkers that are sat right at the front of this green. You may wish to play for that slightly down the left hand side for a bit more forgiveness. There is some long grass and some bushes down towards that left hand side, and there is quite a few runoff areas, especially towards the right and towards the back of this green. The green itself is pretty flat towards the back, so don't expect too much movement from the back half of the green. However, the front half does slope quite significantly down towards the front. So again, if the pin is at the front, you've got a good opportunity to get down for 2 on this one. Hole 13, and a challenging par 4 here with a good risk and reward element to it. The risk here is actually how much of the corner you're prepared to take off. The hole just turns slightly to the left after the bunkers that you see in the distance, so the safe play is just to play out to the right hand side and just play anything between 200 to 230 yards of the tee, as the fairway does run out towards where the red arrow is pointing. If you wish to take on the corner, then this will need a slightly longer shot, but you really cannot afford to miss down the left hand side of this hole. Anything past the turn is actually quite narrow, so you may wish to not go for this if you're at all in risk of it. For your approach to the green though, again just play the yardage to the middle of the green, and this will need to be quite an accurate shot for distance and accuracy. The green is pretty small with actually not much room for error around most sides of the green, especially towards that right hand side, so aim just towards the middle of the green. The green itself does slope gently down towards the front of the green, but again don't expect a huge amount of movement from most angles here. Hole 14 and another good length par 4 here, and off the tee though you will be at an advantage the further down the fairway you can get. You will be teeing from a slightly raised tee box, so ideally you're going to want to find yourself somewhere in between the two fairway bunkers that you see down the right hand side, and these will come at roughly 200 to 280 yards off the tee, and just using that pylon in the distance as your aiming point. For your approach to the green though, I would just recommend playing for the heart of the green, as you will be playing to a slightly higher green. The green is pretty small, so an accurate tee shot here is going to be really important, and there is actually a bit of space around the green if you do happen to slightly miss-hit it. But also be mindful that there are two bunkers either side of this green. The green itself generally slopes down towards the front of the green. I wouldn't expect too much movement, maybe towards the front portion of the green you might see a little bit more. Hole 15 and stroke index 1 for the course, so getting off to a good start on this hole will really help. You are playing into a bit of a valley, so finding the fairway will be really important for that shot back up towards the green. I would recommend playing somewhere around the 200 yard mark off the tee, as this would help you to find the widest part of the fairway, and this will also leave you just short of the fairway bunker. For your approach to the green, you will need to factor in the elevation change, so I would just recommend playing the yardage to the back of the green. There's one bunker short right which you will want to try and avoid, and there are quite a few runoff areas, especially down the right hand side of this green. The green itself is actually pretty flat, so don't expect too much movement from most angles around this green. Hole 16, and this is a super tight par 3 as you are playing through the trees. You will be playing slightly downhill off the tee, so I would just recommend playing the yardage to no more than the middle of the green, maybe playing the yardage to the front of the green. This will just ultimately depend where the pin is. You will need to be mindful of the two bunkers. There's one short left and one mid right of this green. This will also require a really accurate tee shot, as there is very little room for error around this green. The green itself is actually quite generously sized and is a split tier green, with the back portion of the green being the higher of the two tiers. The green itself does generally slope down towards the front of this green, so you can expect quite a bit of movement, especially if you are having to put up or down the tiers. Hole 17 and a challenging par 4 here with a dog leg to the left. Off the tee though, there is very little room for error, as both sides of the fairways are heavily tree lined again. Safest play off the tee though is just to be aiming towards the left hand side of the bunker that you see in the right hand side of the fairway. This should be at roughly 220 yards off the tee. If you do decide to take the corner on, this will need a very accurate tee shot, as the fairway past this point is very narrow and has very little room for error, especially around that left hand side. Anything between 180 to 200 yards off the tee will be perfect. For your approach to the green though, I would just recommend playing no more than the yardage to the middle of the green. The best miss to this green is actually short, as there's two bunkers that pinch in the middle of this green, and there is very little room for error at the back as well. The green is another split tier green, with the back portion of the green being the higher of the two tiers, but again generally sloping down towards the front of this green. So again, don't expect a movement if you're putting on the same tier as the green, but if you are having to put up or down the tiers, you can expect some movement then. And finally, hole 18. And for any Midlander, this has a great name for the hole, so do pay attention to some of the other names as well. This is a good length par 4, playing back up towards the clubhouse. The hole does play slightly uphill towards the green, and another hole where keeping yourself in play is going to be really important. There's two fairway bunkers at about 200 and 230 yards off the tee, so leaving yourself either short of those or in between them will give you a good look at approach to the green. For your next shot, we'll ultimately need to try and find the middle of the green. There's two large bunkers that are sat roughly 20 yards around from the front of the green. Also, there is a terrace club only a few yards from the back of the green, so try not to go too long, as you may have some apologies to be making. The green itself slopes gently down towards the front of the green, and you can expect some movement, especially if you are putting across the green here.